I hope everybody had a chance to review the overview video where we talked a little bit about the evolution of the standards, both IFRS 15 as well as ASC 606. We discussed a little bit of the complexities and some of the resources, namely the TRG, that are available. We're going to move now to the video series where we focus on the technical requirements. And this is the first of the series, and in this video we're going to initially look at scope. Throughout the video series, which you'll see on your screen, is going to be the software that we developed at tasglobal.co. The purpose of the software is to help companies understand the requirements of the standards as well as to ease their implementation of the requirements. So what's being asked there is some basic contract information. Is it 606 or is it IFRS 15? You could select either. It's asking for currency, dollar, pounds, or other currencies. Also asking if it's analysis only or if you actually want the software to calculate the revenue for a given period. But once the basic information is captured, we now move into what the technical requirements are. So the first question that you're being asked is, does the agreement create legally enforceable rights between two or more parties? If the agreement does not create legally enforceable rights, then it's not a contract that will be accounted for under 606. So if you had answered no, that it does not create legally enforceable rights, your analysis ends. You'll see there's a very brief report that gets prepared at the bottom that basically says that this contract is not within the scope of the standards. For purposes of the analysis, let's select yes. So the next question that comes up is a counterparty to the contract a customer. So the standard is revenue from contracts with customer. There are multiple contracts like JVs, collaboration agreements, things of this sort, which would not be considered a contract with a customer, hence they would be out of scope of the standard. If you're unclear what a customer might be, you can select the green button. The question mark here will provide you a summary of the requirements. So you'll see there that a customer is defined as a party that has contracted with an entity to obtain goods or services that are an output of the entity's ordinary activities in exchange for consideration. The summary of the requirements continues and it elaborates on what are considered ordinary activities. If you're still a little unclear on how to implement it, you can select the I button and an example will be provided throughout the site, which will help, coupled with the requirements, to understand how to go about implementing. In this case here, for purposes of our example, we're going to say yes, this is a contract with a customer. So the next question is the contract a non-monetary exchange between two entities in the same line of business to facilitate sales to customers or potential customers? So for example, if you had an oil company in Florida and they need oil in Alaska, and there's an oil company in Alaska that needs it in Florida, these two companies might just agree to swap oil to facilitate the sale to an end customer. In that situation, the contract would not be considered in scope of ASC 606 because it is a non-monetary exchange between the two entities that facilitates the sale to an end customer. For purpose of the analysis, we're going to say no. So now we're moved to, is the contract wholly or partially within scope of any of these areas of literature? The most common ones that will pop up is you'll have contracts that are insurance contracts, which would be outside of the scope of 606. You might have a lease contract, which would be outside of the scope of 606. Financial instruments, anything that is wholly within the scope of these other areas of literature would be outside the scope of 606. Notice the question though. The question asks, is it wholly or partially within the scope of the other area of literature? If you say yes, now the question is the agreement entirely within the scope of the other literature? If you answer yes to that, the analysis ends. You can see here basically what this is saying is that the contract is now outside of the scope of 606 because it is within the scope of one of these areas of literature. However, you could say that the agreement is not entirely within the scope of the other area of literature, which brings about the next question, which is, does the other topic provide separation and measurement guidance on how to separate the components of the contract? If you answer yes, it impacts the language that flows into the report. And what this is saying to you down here is that the other area of literature does provide separation and measurement guidance, so hence you first apply the separation and measurement guidance from that other area of literature. However, if you say no, the report language changes, and what this is now saying is that the other area of guidance does not provide separation and measurement guidance. So hence you would apply the principles of ASC 606 or IFRS 15 to determine how to separate the components and how to measure the components of the contract.